A cold February morning, a woman named Mary Chalice is found dead, and 50 years later, her alleged killer is finally arrested. Some cases seem impossible to solve until one photograph, one DNA trace, or one moment of luck changes everything. Today, we're uncovering 5 of the creepiest cold cases that were finally solved after years. November 2023. A 33-year-old Cuban man living in Spain is reported missing. His family receives a strange text from his phone. It says he's moved on, found someone new, and doesn't want to be contacted again. It didn't sound like him, and days later, his body was discovered in a cemetery on the outskirts of the Spanish town of Tajo. He'd been murdered, and the killer had carefully tried to make it look like a disappearance. Detectives began combing the area, virtually using Google Street View. And that's when they found it. 2 people loading what looked like a large cloth-wrapped bundle into a car. In another shot, a person was wheeling that same object through the streets in a wheelbarrow. The car was traced to a nearby home. Inside, the victim's partner and her ex. Authorities believed the victim had planned to end the relationship and move out. Investigators suggest the motive may have been jealousy or a confrontation that turned violent. Both suspects were arrested and charged. Neither showed signs of remorse, and without Google Maps capturing that exact moment, they might have gotten away with it. It raises a chilling question: how many crimes are quietly frozen in plain sight, waiting to be noticed? Thanksgiving Day, 1998. 21-year-old Melissa Patton calls her family. She asks for one special gift that year: a photo of herself with her grandfather. That would be the last time anyone ever heard from her. Melissa had been living with her husband, Christopher Wallenberger, and their 2 children in Atlanta, Georgia. She was known for being soft-spoken, a bit naive, and overly trusting, especially toward Christopher, who had a documented history of domestic abuse. When Melissa didn't show up for Christmas, her family grew concerned. They drove to her home, only to find it completely emptied out. Neighbors said they'd seen everything moved out between Christmas and New Year's. Christopher never reported her missing. When questioned, he gave a vague story, that she had just walked away one day. He even claimed they had talked about faking IDs and moving to California. But Melissa's family knew something was wrong. She wouldn't abandon her kids. Then, in 1999, dismembered human remains were discovered in bags near the glass company where Christopher had once worked. It wasn't until 2003 that DNA confirmed it was Melissa. Still, no arrest. The case went cold. Then in 2023, a podcast episode about unsolved Georgia murders triggered a tip from a listener. That was enough for detectives to reopen the case. But there was one more chilling detail. Investigators had found semen and skin under Melissa's clothing, and later determined that Christopher had attempted to sexually assault her the day she died. He confessed during interrogation that they had argued, and he snapped. In 2024, Christopher Wallenberger was arrested. He tried hiding behind a dryer and then ran. But this time, there was no escape. After 26 years, Melissa's family finally has a name, and justice is underway. For 69-year-old Bud Roonian, it was a dream from his youth, a 1966 Ford Mustang. He searched for years, and in 2015, he finally posted a Craigslist ad asking if anyone had one for sale, a seller in McRae, Georgia. A man named Ronnie Adrian Towns said he had a lead. Bud and his wife June packed up their SUV and made the drive, but they never came home. Days later, their vehicle was pulled from a nearby lake. Their bodies were found shot and buried in shallow graves. Police quickly zeroed in on Towns. There was no Mustang, no seller, just a plan to lure them in. He was arrested, but delays, missing jurors, and court slowdowns dragged the case out for nearly 10 years. Then in April 2024, a man magnet fishing near Horse Creek pulled a .22 caliber handgun from the water. Days later, he pulled up a plastic bag filled with IDs, phones, and credit cards, all belonging to Bud and June. Investigators obtained a new warrant. What they found in Towns' home remained sealed. But it was enough. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to life in prison without parole. What began as a man chasing his dream ended in a nightmare no one saw coming. August 27, 1994, the sun sets over Lake Mead, Nevada. Two hikers notice something in the brush near Lake Mead Boulevard. It's the body of a young woman. She'd been strangled, severely beaten, and dragged across the ground. This wasn't where the attack started, it was just where it ended. Her name was Melanie White. Only 27, she had just moved to Las Vegas with her boyfriend for a fresh start. She had a young son back home and dreams of rebuilding her life. The night before her death, friends said she was upbeat, not in any trouble, not afraid. Investigators initially suspected robbery or a crime of opportunity. But there were no solid leads, no DNA matches, no witnesses, just heartbreak. Years passed. Then in 2010, forensic scientists retested DNA found on Melanie's body and clothing. Still no matches. In 2021, the non-profit Vegas Justice League stepped in and funded a deep genealogical DNA analysis through Othram Labs. And in August 2024, it finally paid off. A name came back: Arthur Lavery, a man with a long criminal history, including battery and theft. He had lived less than a mile from where Melanie was last seen. Friends later remembered short, uncomfortable encounters with Lavery during that time, but never imagined he was dangerous. But by then, Lavery had already died in 2021 during the COVID-19 pandemic. He escaped the courtroom, but not the truth. And for Melanie's son, now grown, it brought long-awaited closure and deeper grief. Bristol, England. In a quiet Bristol neighborhood, 75-year-old Louisa Dunn suddenly stops answering her door. Neighbors check in. They find her strangled in her own living room. No signs of forced entry. A robbery gone wrong, they said, but something didn't add up. Louisa had lived an extraordinary life. Twice widowed, once married to a city councillor, Teddy Parker, and nearly became Bristol's mayor. After her second husband died, she withdrew from public life, but was still known and loved in the neighborhood. The police searched for clues, but with no DNA tools in 1967 and no known suspects, the case faded into the archives. Then in 2023, detectives ran the old evidence through modern forensic testing, and they got a hit. In early 2024, they arrested Ryland Headley, a 92-year-old man who had been in his 30s when Louisa was killed. He had no criminal record, no one suspected him. He had lived in Ipswich for decades, silently carrying the truth. Police never confirmed the motive, but documents suggest a botched robbery and signs Louisa may have known her killer. Forensic evidence later revealed signs of sexual assault, making the crime even more horrifying than initially believed. Headley's trial is set at Bristol Crown Court. After nearly 60 years, Louisa Dunn's story finally has a name attached to it, but we may never know the full truth. If you found this interesting, give it a like so more people can discover these stories. Want to see more real cases with strange clues and even stranger endings? Then hit subscribe and share this with someone who loves a good mystery. Until next time, stay safe and stay curious.